Hey guys, welcome to another week for our Sith Justice Warriors podcast. Happy New Year. It's season 2. We talk movies, comics, gaming, anime, and everything under the twin suns of Tatooine. This is Princess Olympia, and I'm joined today by my co host, Jaded Fan.
Hi, everyone.
And so again, season 2, as promised, we're going to try to webcast to YouTube. So bear with us as we figure out the technical details, but we'll see how it goes. So with that, I'm going to just talk through a couple stories for the news roundup segment of basically a couple things that came to mind, and then we can get started on just thoughts around anything and everything. Um, Two big things from Marvel came out this week and between this week and last week, and really, one was the Disney Plus Marvel shows were actually confirmed to be moving up. So that is the WandaVision show and the Falcon show, I believe, and they are now they are now moving them up in 2020. They haven't released an official date, but they were slated for 2021. But this is great news because now they're basically going to be available to us a lot more sooner than we thought. Because as you remember, we had the Eternals, the Black Widow movie this year for the Marvel slate. And supposedly these shows were supposed to come in early 2021 or potentially late 2020. But this is great news, and we'll have to keep an eye out on what it is. The second thing is around Doctor Strange 2, and it's actually perfectly timed because it was on TV the other day, and I was watching it and reliving it and really appreciating the movie for what it was. I've watched it several times, but rewatching it refreshed my memory and just opened a couple things to me that I didn't think about when I watched it a couple times before in the past. And I thought, this movie visually is just amazing, but it also had a really cool story, and it was rooted in this whole mysticism idea, and I really actually enjoyed it. So, more to come in that space, but pretty much the title has been released. It was announced, I think, at Comic Con in 2019, at a Comic Con in 2019, and it's called. But the title had not been released at the time. And so it's called Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. It's part of the Phase 4 slate. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how this all sort of fits in. I know that Scarlet Witch will be in the movie. Elizabeth Olsen was confirmed. And I believe, according to CNET, they did mention Loki's character, Tom Hiddleston, will be kind of popping up at some point. So yeah, and this was announced at CES 2020. So yeah, very exciting news. Like I said, timely because I really appreciate that movie for the visual, for the storyline. It was just, he wasn't a character I followed in the comic book world, so it's just it was a really refreshing thing in the sea of the Marvel movies around Avengers to see something a little different. So that, and then lastly, two things. There is a new trilogy for Star Wars. And I believe this came out of the whole Benioff and Weiss that they were supposed to create this trilogy. I think at the time people were thinking it was going to be around the Old Republic, but since they have since gone their separate ways, I think what it is now, based on the news, movieweb.com, reported that it's going to take place in the High Republic era. And what that means is really fast forward, not fast forward, turn the clock back many years before even the Skywalker saga. So it's going to be reportedly set 400 years before New Hope, and it's going to be a trilogy on its own. The release dates are going to be around 2022, 2024, 2026. It's probably going to be centered around maybe the establishment of the Sith, maybe the Jedi. We won't know. Probably some new characters. A lot of people hope that we'll talk a little bit more about the Force so that we understand it. I know we're going back in time, fan. I'm sure you're thinking that. Why do we need to go back in time? And maybe touch on the midichlorians, which we failed to even talk about in the last three of the Skywalker saga. So again, we will stay close to it, but since it was Star Wars related, I felt like it was something to definitely mention. And then last but not least, this is really cool news actually, but for those of you who play the Witcher game, I have not. It looks really cool, but I know that Netflix recently released a series, but they were always based on books. Books that were created I want to say several years ago. I want to say the 80s or 90s. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to go fact check myself. But they were by a Polish writer, and I'm going to butcher his name if I try to pronounce it, Andrzej Sapkowski. And actually, the books have finally, I think, as a combination of the Netflix series as well as the video game, but more so the Netflix series, they have now pretty much hit the New York Times bestseller list, which is amazing because I know you're going to touch on it in a few minutes, fan, and it's a good segue for us. It's really great to see the tie-in. And yes, the book was 27 years. This is 27 years after it was written. So it's just amazing how over the test of time, it has now become a bestseller just because of a lot of the support around it from a video game, TV sort of thing. I still have yet to delve into the series. I actually purchased The Last Wish because I wanted to dive into the world of The Witcher from a book perspective before I even tackle either video game or Netflix series. But I'm very excited. I heard different reviews of the Netflix series, and I do think people are being a little brutal to some extent because at the end of the day, this is a fantasy show, and I know people were very critical of Game of Thrones, and it sort of set the bar for these types of shows, but when you think about it, they're supposed to be outlandish. They're supposed to be you're not going to have the best acting. You're not going to have Oscar-worthy moments, but you might. So just something to think about. But yeah, fan, I will let you take it away because I know you wanted to talk about The Witcher.
Yeah, because I think the game was like 4 years old, and on top of the actual book, there was a report that Steam, I think it was Steam, the PC platform, reported it was like one of the highest concurrent players. I think it was like at 100,000 people. Basically, that's the amount of players playing it at once. And I think it was about 100,000. And I just thought it was kind of amazing how a game 4 years ago was revived by this Netflix show. And I think part of it is people are looking for the next Game of Thrones. And, we're looking for that next epic old fantasy type of show. There's a good following to it that actually I heard that they're making an official podcast for The Witcher to talk about the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's actually pretty neat considering that we've come a long way from the idea of video games inspiring shows and movies. I think you remember it was like a joke when you had Mario have a movie and you're like, oh, it's just gonna be just as bad as that, or Doom. Even though The Rock and Carl Urban were in there, it didn't go that very far.
Yep.
So it's really neat. And I know you see like Halo, for example, they're having their HB. I think that was Showtime. They're doing a Showtime show. But I think Witcher may be more successful because where Netflix is willing to show a little skin, so to speak. I think, especially with Microsoft, they're a bit gun shy about violence and sexuality. That being said, back to The Witcher though, it's really great to see that the video game medium is actually something to be respected. Hopefully, you know, The Witcher can sort of lead the way in terms of trying to make, honestly, make video games a little bit more acceptable. Because the funny thing is that, and I don't have the hard numbers, but I think I read somewhere that video games as an industry makes more money in the billions than Hollywood. And to this day, it's okay and acceptable to spend a whole day binge watching on Netflix, but it's not okay to binge and play video games like Destiny or Witcher. And I kind of laughed because I was reflecting on my time with Witcher 3, and I said I only had time for about 5 hours, which is about 0.5% of the game. So Lumpia, if you're willing to play it, just keep in mind this is going to be pretty long.
That's what I figure. I mean, there's a lot of ground to cover. And are there 3 games in Witcher?
There are two of them are on Xbox. One of them is on PC. So one of them is on PC. So all of them are on PC. One of them, I mean, two of them are on Xbox, 2 and 3, and then 3 is obviously on PlayStation 4 and Xbox. That being said, if you're on Xbox, it's on Game Pass, so you can play it in Game Pass.
Nice.
I double dipped and did both the Xbox and the PC. So I have to figure out what platform I do want to play it on. But there's just so much, I'm going to admit, so much Destiny stuff to do that for me, I need to portion out gaming in order to dive into Witcher. Because I think Witcher, you really have to, like, what I will say, if you start Lumpia, if you play a couple hours and put it away for a couple weeks, you're going to forget where you're at because there's so much story and dialogue. So you may want to just focus on that if you do play it, so to speak.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Are there any other side quests in the game?
A lot.
Oh, boy.
There's a lot. There's a lot of dialogue and decisions and the decisions that affect it. It's very, very intense and comprehensive.
That's awesome.
Which is great that Witcher is going to do that, and I hoped in a fan finally gets to it review that I actually get time to watch the season 1 of Witcher because I hear good things about this.
Yeah, like I said, I heard that they were as true as possible to the story, and so, like I said, I think we're all looking, like you said, exactly, like we're all looking for that next Game of Thrones. Like nothing is going to be like Game of Thrones, but what you will get is some fantasy that I think is reminiscent of but better, reminiscent but better than what we saw in the early 2000s, like 90s, like Hercules, Xena, Warrior Princess. We talk about Terry Goodkind, like those shows, like they were actually at the forefront of this like sort of genre, and like they didn't get to do the gritty things that necessarily Game of Thrones could do because it's on HBO, it's on cable. However, and I think that was the big shock factor for people, is that they were not expecting, like when I watched season 1, I wasn't expecting Ned Stark to die, and I never read the books, and so I didn't know he was going to die. I didn't think they would kill someone so important, and so I think just the shock factor, the red wedding, just a lot of the things that they showed and depicted, I think were just what kept people glued to the TV and glued to the show. And so, like, I think we have to approach these shows thinking of the genre versus the shock factor. Like that's what I think. If they're as true as could be to the source material or the genre, if anything, then that works for me. So I'm excited about it too. But to tie back to your big point as well, like it's nice to see this resurgence of linking it to the video game, to the book. I understand that, yeah, to your point, they did Doom, and granted, like it wasn't like a blockbuster, but it doesn't need to be. Like it doesn't need to be a blockbuster to come from a video game. Halo does their piece. Like, yes, like what, I guess my question for you, fan, what is, for me, I already know, but what would be a cool concept video game for you to see turn into a series?
Oh wow, you hit me with something I wasn't prepared for.
I mean, I could take the lead. There are two that come to mind that I think would translate super well. If you want to talk about fantasy, Dragon Age comes to mind. You know, I loved Dragon Age 1. I think certain characters they could definitely carry over into a world of Dragon Age. Like, you know, it's been a long time since I played the game, but you could totally, you know, port over like a lot of the characters from 1 and 2, and Zevran and Morgan, and like you could totally Alistair, like you totally port them over super fast, and then create a main character around all that, or follow them. The second, I would love to see. It's going to be harder because lately, you know, you and I have been playing Destiny. I would love to see Destiny. I
Whoa,
would love
that's
to see
tough.
Destiny done, but
How
I
would you do that? Would you just focus on the three Vanguard?
see, that's the thing. You could totally focus on the three vanguards, or you could totally focus before the time of Destiny, like before that, you know, Traveler came, or the point of time when the Traveler came. Like you could do a prequel to Destiny before, you know, but you could also focus on the three, like Cade. Like I don't know if, you know, I don't know what happened with Nathan Fillion and why they had to kill him. Spoiler: his character Cade was
Yeah, this game is
awesome.
old, so spoiler.
I think people would watch a show with Cade. Like I think they would.
Kate is awesome, and I think that this game really misses his candor.
Yeah,
I
it does.
agree.
Like I loved him, and yeah, like I miss him.
You have an
And
epic bad guy in Gary. I mean Gaul.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I was thinking about it, and I guess what I would do would be Mass Effect, the first trilogy, but I don't think I would do a Shepherd. Like, I don't think you could do Shepherd because
no,
in our minds, our Shepherds look different, they
yeah,
act different, they respond in different ways, and I think Mass Effect the world and seeing how soldiers or scientists deal with the incoming impending threat of the Reapers, I think that would be an interesting dynamic. You could have all the cool aliens. I don't know. You could probably have Garrus pop
Grunt,
in.
Garrick's a grunt. Oh my god, I love them.
I mean, I could see that. I could see Mass Effect, the original trilogy, um,
Like a big
and
big
then
space opera style. Yeah,
one that I don't think you'd think that I would say, but it's one of my genre defining games that I love to this day is Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
yeah.
That so you think because it's a typical military shooter, it's not really a story, but there actually could be. I don't think you'd go like 3 seasons, but I think you could probably do one or two. Just that whole you could have like that whole Jack Ryan.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's what I
Amazon
was gonna
Prime
say. It
could
could be
do
like
that.
Jack Ryan. It's like the same guy. Well,
Homeland, Jack Ryan.
yeah,
I think it's more Jack Ryan-ish because Jack Ryan they had that in season 2. They had that whole actually no season 1 and season 2 they had like a special ops team that would actually work, and I think Amazon Prime if they actually did it in that Tom Clancy mold. Who speaking of Tom Clancy, Division wouldn't be that. Actually, wasn't there a Division movie that's supposed to come out with Gyllenhaal?
is there? Because I would watch it if it takes place in that New York City.
Yeah, I never got around beating the DC one. I just actually I didn't really like the winter scene in New York, but actually when I played the DC, I actually like the New York.
I miss the winter, wearing like the outfits we wore. Like I said, I talk about outfits.
Yeah, I mean,
My character, I love building the characters. So yeah, like all the crap you could put on, like the different coats and like tech vests and shit. Like it was
'cause
great.
I think Tom Clancy, like source material. Even though Tom Clancy didn't make The Division, nor did he make. No, he made. Was he Splinter Cell? Like it's so you gotta be careful when it says Tom Clancy because.
Yeah, he did do Splinter Cell. He did do Splinter Cell.
Did he write a Splinter Cell book?
I don't remember for sure.
Because he wrote a lot. He wrote the Jack Ryan series, and this is what I. He wrote Rainbow Six, but like they kind of branch it off that world, the books, and that's why they sort of make these games. But you got to be careful that Tom Clancy.
It's not a book; it's just a video game series.
Yeah, so Tom Clancy never made The Division, the concept of The Division, but he made Rainbow Six because the book is sitting on my shelf right now. That being said, you could make really good stuff with the Tom Clancy books and games. Well, the games we're talking about games, and I think Amazon Prime could nail that because of what they've done with Jack Ryan. So I'm going to leave it at that. Those are my immediate thoughts of like what could work. Because as much as I love Halo 2, it's so complex, and I'm interested to see the Halo show that'll come out on Showtime because you can't see Master Chief's face. I know we pulled it off with The Mandalorian for the most part, but it's hard. You never see a Spartan's face.
Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting. It really will. And they're doing live action, right? I'm going to have to dig up some info on this.
But before we move on The Witcher, I will say this. Did you know that the Witcher author who created the whole thing, he basically, when they tried to negotiate, CD Projekt Red, the game makers, tried to negotiate to do this, the game. Basically, the guy's like, I don't believe this thing's going to be a success, so give me a couple of bucks. Like, it wasn't even a lot.
No way.
And then he's looking at Witcher 3 selling hotcakes. He sees this Witcher series. Now, I don't know if he gets the royalties directly from Netflix on that one, but I know with the game, he sued. He's like, I messed up. I didn't believe in my own product, and I should be compensated. And I'm like, you didn't believe in it. You
wrote like several books. Well, they were short stories, actually, like short. But like, you know what? At least he's getting the book royalties.
Well, he is now. Like they did a deal to settle, but I was just like, wow, the guy who created The Witcher, he didn't believe in his own product.
That or he didn't have good legal counsel. Because I feel like that's the other thing.
Well, just people like George Lucas don't have good legal counsel. Because, we have to go all the way in the past and use young Yoda for the High Council, which sounds like some other. Actually, it sounds like that's my favorite that was my favorite podcast when the original Ethan, Jeremy, and Jeff were manning the High Council. Anyway, I digress because I'm actually still
I know
trying to see how Star Wars is going to pan out, The Rise of Skywalker, in terms of will it hit the billion? Will it be more than The Last Jedi?
We're still having Star Wars hangover. I agree with you.
It's not even a hangover. It's like,
well, for me it is. It's too much.
I felt like The Rise of Skywalker was like letting an old friend go. Like, they were really sick and you knew that the time was coming. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. It was
And with that, I will say that wraps up another episode. Thank Thanks, everyone, for listening, as always, as we bring dark to light on pop culture, comics, gaming, and more. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave us constructive feedback. We take it to heart. You can reach us at Sith Justice Warriors Podcast at email.com or our Twitter handle at Justice Sith. All the links to the articles, we'll try to reference them in the descriptions. So check it out. And again, reach out to us with your thoughts. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us on the Sith side. And we will talk to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.